Hey, what's up? This is Jake here in Jake's shop. Do you have problems with your steering? Old muscle cars, Chevy trucks, Ford trucks, you name it, anything with a steering box in it. There's a lot of things that are the same. Now, I've had a unique opportunity here to actually visit one of the best steering gear rebuilders in the state, nation, world, actually, if you ask me. A lot of times you can check things, you know, your bushings are out of whack, your center link's toast, something like that. But once everything looks pretty good, ball joints look good and stuff like that, a lot of times it's the steering gear itself, especially in some of these old muscle cars that I've been rebuilding. You know, rather than going to expensive rack and pinions and whatnot, don't get me wrong, those by far are going to be, you know, today's era of steering, but you're going to also spend a ton of money in re-engineering and a lot of these new front clips and different things. But if you just want your car back to normal and even slightly better, you can actually invest some money in a better steering gear. So I've got an opportunity here to go visit Redhead Steering Gears. We're going to get a little inside look on how these things work. We'll take it from here. All right, so we're here. We're at Redhead Steering Gear. I had a great opportunity to come by. Luckily, their place is really close to where I live. I needed a new steering box for my Cutlass. So Daniel was so kind to take his time out of his day to day, and we get to actually talk about these steering gears and how they're actually made, how they rebuild them, and the different processes. So Daniel, how you doing today? You doing good?
Doing really good. Welcome.
Right
Glad you could come see us. So
right
yeah.
on. Well, I really appreciate you letting me come by and talk to you guys.
Of course.
It's been
Yeah.
pretty cool. Pretty cool. So as we know, I've got a Saginaw steering box in my car. And when I first came in, I was really impressed by this cutaway of this box. You can really, you know, see what's going on in here. Now, can you tell us a little bit about how these actually work?
Yeah. So this is an example of a Saginaw, very similar to the one that's in your Cutlass. So basically these are worm and ball driven. And what that means is this is a worm gear right here, this little spiral right here. Okay. And so this is directly attached to this input shaft right here, which is the piece that from your steering wheel through your steering column, your intermediate steering shaft, and then your coupler hooks in right here to the steering gear. So as you turn your steering wheel, it's engaging and turning the column and the intermediate shaft and the coupler and turning this, which is turning this worm right here, and there's a series of recirculating ball bearings inside this piston right here. So as you turn your wheel, this is turning and riding on those balls.
Okay.
And so one of the Redhead things that we do that's a specialty and industry only, I should say, exclusive, is we have between 30 and 40 different sizes of bigger ball bearings in factory to custom fit into this race right here. So we're ensuring perfect fitment of ball to race inside that worm gear to get rid of any slop.
So what steering, like what range, like for my Cutlass and some of my old muscle cars, what's kind of a good gear range for this style of box?
Yeah. So for all the GM passenger cars, Buick, Pontiac, Cadillac, Chevrolet, mid 60s, so 65 would be the first year that this Saginaw would have gone into those vehicles if it was opted with power steering, and that would roll all the way through the mid 70s till 76. They made a few changes here, but it was really similar.
Okay.
All the way into the 80s actually.
Oh
yeah.
wow, that's pretty
so
cool.
Mid 60s until late 80s, this same design with a few tweaks in there was the Saginaw gear that was run in GM passenger cars.
That's pretty cool. You know, so I know there's different steering ratios that are offered when you go to get a box from you guys. I've heard a rumor that the base panel, there's an indentation here and has some numbers. Does that actually tell you what steering ratio is on these cars?
Not exactly. Yes and no. So this end cap is what we call this little dome piece right here.
Okay.
And the numbers on there basically tell you what we call the stops on this end cap. Okay. It will tell you what size of stop it has in there. This end cap on this one has no stop, meaning the piston can travel all the way to the very edge of this piece right here. But what that number tells you is if there's a little piece inside here and the size of that piece in there, that tells you how far the piston can travel inside the gearbox.
Okay, so that'll obviously limit how far you can turn your tires one way or the other.
Yeah.
Now, if a customer wants a less steering ratio, tighter steering, let's say, not as many turns, what do you guys do to change that?
So we can, it has to do with this worm here. We can do 3 different ratios on this Saginaw gear.
Okay.
Standard in the bigger GM cars was 18 to 1,
Okay.
which is about 4 turns, 4 to 4.5 turns lock to lock. The most common ratio we saw in the mid-size cars was 15 to 1.
Okay.
That's about 3 to 3.5 turns lock to lock. That's what we went with on your car.
Right.
And then if you wanted the most performance-oriented, you could say the most responsive, you can go to a 12.7 to 1 ratio, which is about 2.5 turns lock to lock.
And you do all that by changing the actual worm gear.
It changes this worm gear right here. This
Okay.
worm gear is a different piece
Okay.
for each ratio.
So I understand that there's other companies that might be doing something different to quote unquote determine the actual ratio, correct?
It's become really common in the industry and something that we've been fighting. We choose not to do it because we don't believe it's correct or right to do this. But it's very common in the industry now to, instead of actually changing this out to a faster ratio, they'll actually just put thicker stops right here and right here inside the gear so the piston can't travel as far.
Gotcha.
And therefore you're getting fewer turns, but really you're just limiting how far your
So you're going to be
can
limited on your turning
Exactly.
turning radius. in
We
that
do not
case.
do that here at Redhead. We will, if you request a quicker ratio, you will pay for it, but you'll actually get a quicker ratio.
That's awesome. So when you go to rebuild one of these boxes, we obviously talked about putting new balls in them. Obviously, you're doing all new seals. How does this work here? This part of the worm driver and how to part of the assembly.
So this is the top cover right here, and then this little screw coming out of here with this lock nut on it is the what's often referred to as the adjuster nut. But this has an Allen head on the top of this, and this is attached directly to this output shaft, or sector shaft is what this is usually referred to as. And this is what your pitman arm hooks onto.
Right.
And so on the back side, inside here, this pitman arm has 3 teeth that mesh like this with the back side of this piston. So there's 3 teeth on this piston and 3 teeth on this shaft here. And they mesh up like that.
Okay.
And what this actually does is this sets the mesh point of those teeth. So if it's too tight, it's really meshed like this and it's bound up.
Gotcha.
So what you'll find is it won't want to hold center, won't want to track straight very well. And then also another byproduct of that is you'll get what's called memory steer.
Okay.
You turn your steering wheel, it doesn't want to come back to center.
Gotcha.
Memory steer.
Gotcha.
And so if it's set too tight right here, it's because these gears are bound up and they don't want to come back to center. And if it's too loose, you'll have play.
Gotcha. So obviously your boxes are all preset from here before they even don't mind setting. Does anyone ever try to adjust these? Is there a right way or wrong way to do it?
Yes, there is a right and wrong way, and a lot of people do try to adjust it. You'll see with our product, if you get one of ours, there's going to be a tag right on this nut that says do not adjust. Adjusting will void your warranty.
Gotcha.
It'll also say it on your invoice. We try and make it very clear, do not adjust, because we've set that and we've set it there for a reason.
Gotcha.
If you ever feel like there's something that's not quite right with your adjustment, we do encourage you to call us. We will work with you. We'll get you to our tech team, and we can instruct you to make an adjustment if that is necessary.
Awesome.
The main key is to make small adjustments.
Gotcha.
A lot of people think, man, I got a lot of slop in my wheel. Let me just crank this down a turn and then tighten that nut up, and that'll get rid of my plate. Well, that can put things in a bind. We say, I mean, if you're going to try adjusting on an old steering gear, even an old one that's got a lot of play, a quarter turn at the max at a time.
Yeah, gotcha.
If that.
And then drive it, test it.
Drive it, test it, see how it feels,
Make
put
sure
some
it comes
miles
back to
on it,
center.
make sure it's coming back to center, and remember that's your key.
Gotcha.
If it stops coming back to center and you've still got play, it's a wore out steering gear. It's going to need to be replaced.
So if you've got an old box and you suspect that your box might be the problem,
Sure.
and there's no obvious signs of grinding or crazy amounts of leakage,
Mm-hmm.
is there like an easy way, and your other steering components obviously could still be a problem
Yeah.
with ball joints and whatnot,
Yeah.
but if all that looks kind of okay, is there an easy way to test why this is on the vehicle, whether or not it might be
Yeah,
one?
a very easy way. What we call an isolation test.
Okay.
Isolation test, basically, turn your vehicle on, make sure it's idling, and center up your wheels. So you want your tires straight ahead, your steering wheel on center, and wherever you got free play in that dead zone, if you can have a buddy helping you out, have that buddy rocking it in that dead zone where there's play, and just watch. What we want to see is this input shaft, what this is doing, and what this is doing in response. So if this is moving, there needs to be a corresponding reaction of this.
Okay.
Bear in mind, so if this is a 15 to 1 like your car is, that means this input would have to turn 15 revolutions for one full revolution of this shaft.
Oh, wow.
So you won't get equal amounts of reaction,
Right.
but you should get an immediate response. If this is moving, this should be moving.
Gotcha.
And if you don't, that's going to tell you there's some play in that box. It's probably going to need to either be adjusted or likely replaced.
Or replaced and
Yeah.
rebuilt.
Exactly.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
What kind of things do you, so basically a customer gets to, they'll send you send the box and you guys completely remanufacture that box. What kind of warranty does something like this
Yeah.
have after you're done with it?
Our units have a 12-month unlimited mile warranty.
Cool.
So 12 months, as many miles as you put in it within that. And we always say when we sell a unit, if you have a problem outside of that 12 months, reach out to us. We want to help you out.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I can't wait. I'm going to get to try one of these in my car here pretty soon.
Yeah.
So what do you think about doing a little tour of the shop and explaining the process? All right, Daniel, so we're in the shop now. Can you tell us a little bit about the process when a core comes in and steering box comes in? Just kind of briefly what it goes through once it gets here.
Absolutely. So this is our receiving bay right here. So UPS and the United States Postal Service back in here every day and drop a load of cores in.
Cool.
And they come in dirty, kind of like this. In fact, I think this might be your core right here from your...
Yeah, that's from my Cutlass.
Yeah, from
right
your
on.
Cutlass. So, yeah, so it'll come in looking like this. Actually, this is cleaner than most, so thank you.
You're welcome. I put the bolts back in and the caps back on.
Yep, exactly. When you send in a core, we ask that the caps are in, and the integrity bolts that we send out on the new one are included on the core. Yeah, once they're received in here, they're processed through. They're sent to the shakers, is what we call those. They're vibratory part shakers. They've got media and solvent in them, and they basically just shake all the gunk and dirt and grease off of them. Are a somewhat clean product, so they go back to our teardown crew, who take them apart, disassemble them.
Look at all those steering gears.
Yeah, they see what parts are salvageable, what needs to be replaced, clean them up, paint what's salvageable, and kind of get ready for the process of rebuild. So
that's cool.
Yeah, these carts at any given time are loaded up with cores, and they're processing them as quick as they can through the back. So
that's cool.
Yeah, this is kind of our receiving bay right here. These are very similar to what your Cutlass has right here.
Now, does Saginaw actually make new boxes anymore, or no? Not on these old.
Not anymore.
vehicles?
They got bought out by a company called Delphi. I think they've changed hands a few times now. Whoever is what Saginaw used to be still makes steering gears now.
Gotcha.
But they don't supply nearly as many people as like GM and Dodge
need,
and them.
yeah.
Yeah. So basically what we do on these is any sector shaft. So here's an example of a sector shaft. This is the little shaft that's in the gearbox that the pitman arm hooks to right here.
Right.
So any shaft that comes in through our doors, we'll spend time on the lathe getting polished up to clean up the sealing surfaces.
Gotcha.
And that's a multi-purpose thing.
Okay.
What that does also is it ensures that it's true. If it's got any wobble on there at all, that shaft is no longer true.
Gotcha.
We will not use that shaft in another box. It also allows us to clean it up and inspect if there's any stress cracks, if there's any pits on it. Sometimes if they've been in a vehicle for a long time with water and intrusion, it will develop some little pits and the sealing surface will need to be cleaned up.
Right.
In the process of cleaning up that seal surface, you may take up too much material and it will no longer have enough material to seal. So
Gotcha.
this lathe kind of helps us in that process.
Cool.
This is what we call a valve building bench. So Saginaws do not have an external valve. So what your car has does not have an external valve, but any Ford made steering gear has an external valve. That's what this is right here. So the control valve of that steering gear, and we showed on that cutout version where the ball bearings ride in here, is a piece, as you can see, a whole piece that slides into the gear and bolts in. So we actually have a department here that rebuilds the valve of the steering gear.
Wow.
And so what they do is they set the size of the ball bearings in this department.
Gotcha.
See all those ball bearings right there? Those are all different sizes.
Like microns.
Yeah, they're actually by the 2/1000ths of an inch.
Wow.
So
cool.
It's a precision fitment and it's a time-consuming process. You got to just fit them, feel it, see if there's any play, take them out if there's play, put another size in there. It takes a lot of time and obviously a lot of ball bearings to have in stock to ensure that we're able to get the right bearings in there to get rid of the play. So
way cool.
yeah, that's our valve building department. We have 4 different valve builders right now in-house. That's all they do is build the valves for the Ford gear. Saginaw builders.
Okay.
So they're the ones who build the steering gear like is in your Cutlass. Their benches right there are where all the assembly is done, where all the fitment of the bearings and the Saginaw gears go. Out here we have paint booths where the painting is taking place.
Now, is there different options for paint? I thought I saw something about that.
Yeah. So, Redhead Standard is the gloss black with a red top. That's our signature. My great uncle started this company back in 1980, and he wanted to be able to tell people really quick when he popped the hood in a car, that's my gear.
Yeah.
So the red cap is his signature, but we're partial to it. We love it, but obviously if you've got a custom build or a special paint scheme on your car, you just want to keep it looking original, we can paint it the original GM cast with the polished top cover. That's original GM. We can do that, no extra charge. If you do have a custom paint scheme you want your gear or part of your gear to be painted, let us know. It's an additional $35 to custom paint match.
Cool.
Get us a swatch of your color or send us a picture of your car and we'll do our best to match the paint up. Only $35.
Right on.
So this is our teardown department right here, all of this. And then we got high temperature parts washers right there.
Gotcha. Get them all cleaned up.
So they get all cleaned up and that's kind of where they go through. After they get painted, they go to a test bench. So here is an example of a test bench right here.
Gotcha.
So this has a power steering pump in it, just like any vehicle that has power steering has. And you can see right here, it's got a gauge on it. Our pumps for the Saginaw gears, which is the setup for Saginaw, maxes out at 1500 PSI.
Gotcha.
Your car's pump probably only does about 1300. We like to put them to a little bit of extra just to make sure.
That makes sense.
So yeah, 1500 PSI is what these are set at to max out. This tech checks pressure and flow, the gallons per minute. We're able to set our adjustments on this bench. We can set the power balance of the valve right here. If it's uneven, we can tweak the adjustments on this thing and make sure that it's perfect pressure and balance in both directions, left to right, and that there's no play.
Gotcha.
Because as I was mentioning before, you can only check play if there's power to it. So
right.
We have to put pressure to them to know that our no play guarantee really is.
So there's a lot more work involved with a power steering gear versus the manual steering gears in a lot of ways?
Yes, the manuals have a separate set of challenges with the worm gear, and there's usually either a worm and roller assembly, and a lot of times if those get pitted out, those will either need to be machined or replaced. They're costly components, they're not as complex. So a lot of people are surprised when we charge more to do a lot of the older manual gears, but the components inside that require replacement are often a lot costlier.
Gotcha,
so,
that makes sense.
Simpler design, more expensive to replace the parts.
Man, you guys ship a lot of gears out of here.
We sure do, yeah. Keeps us busy. It's a real niche market, niche company, but we stay as busy as we want to be and sometimes more.
Yeah. So, after that, they're boxed up and shipped out most times. No one's as convenient as me, right? Head down the road half hour.
Exactly. Unfortunately, when we started in the 80s, 90+% of our business was local. With the internet and word getting out that there's a quality option in the aftermarket, what we do now is probably 90 to 95% shipped out versus 5 to 10% local. So
right on.
We love our local customers. It's great. So these are all stocked. These have all been tested. These are ready to go. So when we sell one on the phone that's shipping to Texas or Florida or wherever, we have 2 people that work in our shipping department all the time. They're packing them up for shipping, filling them with packing material, making sure the integrity bolts are on there and everything before they go out, making sure the gearboxes are on center, doing the final checks and packaging them up and giving them to the UPS guy. This is more of the same over here. This is Ford Bay, so this is where all those Ford gears, where I was telling you how they have the external valves.
Oh, gotcha.
This is where those are all assembled, but more of the same, just builders.
Different
right
manufacturers.
Yep.
Is there any limit to what steering boxes you guys might rebuild?
Not really. I should say domestic.
Gotcha.
If it was made in the U.S., we can probably rebuild it. And we do a lot of foreign gears, Toyota, Nissan, Mitsubishi. We do a lot of that as well.
Okay.
But pretty much if it was made in the U.S., we can do it. Our main, aside from guys like you who have the hot rods and stuff like that, older passenger cars like GM, Pontiac, Chevy, our bread and butter is pickup trucks, diesel guys.
Yeah. They take a lot of wear on those
There's a
steering
ton
boxes.
of weight in a diesel engine. There's a lot of clatter. Yeah, they just tend to wear out quicker.
Yeah.
The guys like to jack them up, put big old
tires.
tires on them, run them through the mud and
Yeah.
stuff. That puts a lot of strain on a gearbox, and people are looking for a box that will last better. So,
Right.
Yep.
Cool.
So, yeah.
All right, well, I'll get out of your hair, and again, we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, sounds great.
Okay, so wrapping up the video here, great opportunity there to get to see the insights of Redhead Steering Gears and what they do. Great company. They're not paying me to do this. I can't say enough about them. I bought that box, I put it in my Cutlass, and it made a world of difference. Better than factory. Obviously, I have new bushings on the car as well as new center link on the car. That wasn't the problem. Portions of the problem, but the steering gear was the major component of the problem in that car. I cannot say enough good things about how the difference it made in actually replacing that steering gear. Much better steering. Unfortunately, my car's not here. I'm working on my buddy's 67 Firebird right now, a numbers matching 400 car. But if you have any questions or anything you ever want to ask, visit them online at redheadsteeringgear.com and give them a call. They're there to help you guys out and help us all figure this stuff out. So anyways, hope you liked the video. Hit like and subscribe. I'll try and keep putting some more up. It's been a little hard here recently, but we'll keep doing more. Thanks.